We're already done with the data formatting and data representation functions. So today we'll focus our attention towards the data analysis functions in Excel. Now, data analysis is a very wide spectrum or array of functions that could come into this. So we're going to look at some of the major ones that at a beginning level would be required for us to kind of work ahead. And then as we go along, we'll probably keep adding a little bit to this repertoire of functions that we look at, right? The first set of functions that we're going to look at in terms of data analysis are, let's say we are given a text value, a string value, and we want to find out how many alphabet or letters does it have, what is the total length of that string, and if we want to, let's say, work on some sort of a functionality where we can take out the first two letters or the last two letters or the middle two letters of a particular text string that is there, right? So the first function in this case which could be useful is something called as the length function. Now let's say we have been given this set of strings here, and they could be any kind of characters, right? So for example, they could be identifiers of students, they could be us working in an industry where these are invoice numbers, they could be some other parameters, right? So for example, you could have one of the strings as INV201415 and they're followed by the invoice number, which is 011, let's say. Right now I want to find out if this is a correct what is the length of this, so that might be used separately in terms of some sort of an analysis somewhere, right? Now Excel allows us a function called len, L-E-N, which basically gives us the length or number of characters in a text string, right? So you read this, returns the number of characters in a text string. I open the bracket and I just link the particular cell for which I want the length. I close the bracket, right? You could also go here and click on the function fx here so that you get the arguments here. You can click on A5 and you see returns the number of characters in a text string. Text is the text whose length you want to find. Spaces count as characters. Remember, if there is a space in between, it counts it as a character, right? Click OK and you get 7. The next number that you see is 10. Why is it 10? That's a 10 digit number. That's a 10 letter number or text that is there. This is very similar to what PAN numbers are like. So if you look at PAN numbers or permanent account numbers of individual taxpayers in India or corporate taxpayers in India, that number looks like this: 5 alphabets followed by 4 numbers followed by another alphabet that you see there, right? You could similarly continue and look at some of the other parameters. So all we need to do is, remember, Excel drags and drops the formula. So we can drag and drop the formula and we find that length of this particular text string is 12. This is 777, right? If I add a space somewhere, so let's say we add a space somewhere in between here, two spaces somewhere in between here, press enter, you see space counts as a length. So sometimes this might be useful if you are, let's say, evaluating a set of parameters and you're looking for a company's invoice numbers and you would want to make sure that all invoice numbers are 12 digits and you have not missed a digit somewhere or an alphabet somewhere. You could run this to identify what is going to be the length of a particular character, right? Now that's the first instance where we are trying to use data which can then subsequently be used in some sort of a data analysis, right? So that's the first function that we get. Now let's move ahead and move to the next set of data where it might be useful for us. So now let's say we have to actually take out some characters, or from the beginning of the text string, some characters from the end of the text string, or some characters from the middle of the text string, right? For that, Excel allows us some functions. Let's say I want to find out the first two characters. So we want to find out what are the first two characters that we see in this particular string, right? What do I use? I use something called as, remember, when you use a function, you'll always have to put an equals to there, left. So now let's open the function argument by clicking on this fx here. So we see what text has to come in. I select the text, and how many characters do you want from the left to extract, right? So if you put 2 here, it'll give you the first two characters. Look at this closely here. it tells you what the answer of this number would be. If on the other hand you put in 3 here, it will give you the first 3 characters. We need only the first 2.